I tell people all the time that, man, I want to get into it. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do what you're doing. I'm like, no, don't worry about doing what I'm doing. Do what you need to do. The hardest part is starting. The easiest part is quitting.
All right, well, let's just dive into this. Hello, Lot Pod people. Thank you so much for joining here on the Light on the Trail podcast. I am joined with a guest that I've tried to have on for a while, but we started talking on Strava at first, and then we tried to run. We did somewhat. Okay, we'll get into that too. We wanted to run the not Colorado, my goodness, Cleveland State Park race, the Coyote Run, and then that got rescheduled, and so we got to run the redo of that. So I have if you heard that episode, that's on it. And this is the Jacob I mentioned that I finally got to meet at the end. But so we finally met up. We made some schedule plans work. We just did about a little over 11 miles at a very nice trail. He was just here 2 weeks ago doing the Sufferfest, which was a heck of a race, the Sufferfest. I did it last year, but it's a really nice trail out here at the Cedar Hill State Park. So with any further ado, I'll kind of let him introduce himself a little more. This is Jacob, and I'm not going to say your last name because I think I know how to say it, but I'm going to mess it up. But hey, Jacob.
Jacob Palos.
Palos.
Yeah, Palos. Okay. Yeah.
All right, sir. What's your? Well, I can get into asking questions, or let's start. How was the run? I think it was nice. Yeah.
Today was good. Much needed after the hot one yesterday that I had, but no, it's just nice to get in the trail and off the road and away from the hustle and bustle. And it's always cooler on the trail this time of year.
Yeah, I'm glad we got out here to in the morning like we did because we're smart and we know that it gets hot later in the day, and there's been a little bit of a breeze, and it hasn't been, again, it's early. It's like 9 something right now, almost 10.
Yeah.
So it's been very doable for a run and everything else. So not compared to or as to be compared to the Sufferfest, like I said a couple weeks ago, that it's a night race. It'll be cool, right?
No.
And then it's like, yeah, what do you call cool? Like,
no, the oven's still hot when you turn it off.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it went.
That's a good, yeah. And it starts during, like, it's still daylight when the race starts.
Right, yeah. It started at 7.
Yeah.
It was like 100 and I think heat index was like 108 when we started.
Yeah, it's still stupid hot, but the course isn't terrible. It's a nice course, but that was good. So, yeah, today was nice. We're like, let's have a chill little run. Ran through here, and it's a little over 11 miles. So it's not a short run.
No,
it's definitely a good effort, and or a good time on feet for sure. And there's a couple of hills we maybe you should have quote slow down, but we talked most of the time too. And I was like, I kept having to tell Jacob like, wait, don't say anything. I want to.
Yeah.
I'll ask you that later, and some of the stuff we might repeat on here. So
okay.
if I do, either I forgot or it's intentional, and I just think it was a good something to talk about. So we may go in circles, and I've got a list of paper here that full of questions that I tried to write down yesterday to think so I could be somewhat prepared. Now, what's your background in? Because I want to try to bring up the question that I wanted to say over there a second ago, but before I forget. But what's your, so from like out of high school?
Out of high school?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd say lost.
There you go.
Lost. I was just wild and just kind of aimless, I guess, and really just had no sense of purpose or direction of where I wanted to go. I was just trying to figure it out. I was very defiant and hard-headed, and I just kind of aimlessly wandering around, and then all of a sudden my life accidentally gained traction when when God wanted it to instead of when I thought I was wanting it to. And
that's how it works, right?
Yeah. The fitness thing, I played football and stuff and always wanted to be fit, but it was never like that big of a deal. I was more of like a bench press and curls kind of guy. The idea of running over a mile was like running at Boston. And then met a girl and got engaged, really
I know the story. Yeah.
That whole story. And then she's like, hey, you're going to be a dad. I'm like, oh no. I was terrified.
How old were you about this time?
I was 20 or 21, somewhere in there. And at that time, I really didn't have a job per se. I was hunting coonhounds.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty much it because I had no responsibilities minus a truck payment.
Yeah, there you go.
So she's like, oh, you're going to be a dad. And I'm like, oh, man, I got 2 people that I got to take care of now. So there's not a lot of opportunity where I'm from. So I hop around job to job. And I always felt like I needed more of a sense of purpose. Like I was meant for more. And just all these dead-end jobs and whatever. And finally I was like, I didn't know anything about life. Completely ignorant. And I was like, I need money, I need insurance, and I need structure. And at that time, I had, I think because of my attitude, I had created such a habit of when things didn't go my way, I bailed. Like, it's okay, I don't have to face adversity. If something, and I carried around a sense of shame I felt like a quitter a lot of times. Like, okay, something doesn't go my way, I'm out. I'll bail, And I'd made some bad decisions growing up, and I knew that I needed to wipe my slate clean, in a sense. So I was like, well, there's the Army.
Right. Structure, right?
Yeah, they'll reprogram you. At the time, I believed you couldn't quit. I was like, and I heard insurance is great. And then my wife at the time, she wanted to leave our hometown. She wanted, we wanted to go see the world and whatever. And I was like, well, she wants to leave. We need insurance. I need money, and I need fixed. Was the biggest thing.
Give me something. Give me
and they're always
direction.
Hiring. Yeah. So I'm doing what I believe the noble thing. I'm like, I'm going to join the Army. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I hid the fear. I was definitely like nervous. And then I remember when you get there, you go through like a week of like in processing, and then you go to basic training. Very quickly into that first hour of basic training, I was like, what have I done? And yeah.
You were saying, and then we kind of mentioned earlier, we said talk about running a mile. We brought up, I know that you were in the military. And that whole thought, we're kind of on that topic of people that think like, oh, 5K is impossible. It's like, yeah, until you do it. And you're like, oh, 10K is possible. And then like, now we're in the ballpark of like, hey, maybe 50 miles isn't too crazy, and it's crazy, And so you're saying like when they get to the training there and test, like, hey, we're going to run 2 miles. And you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. I went to the recruiter and he's like, you're going to have to pass a PT test. And like I told you earlier, I was a sprinter in high school. I ran bases and I played football. I was just 40 yards was it,
Right.
And I told you the first time the coach was like, hey, you're going to run a mile. I was like, I need a support crew. I need gels. I need a camel bag, But anyway, so the recruiter's like, yeah, your PT test is a 2-mile run. I was like, this is going to take me like 12 hours.
You're like 2 miles.
Yeah. And then, when you go through that stuff, they kind of like wipe the slate of what you think is real. Oh, not I should say real, but like what you think is like your limits.
Right. Okay.
And they're like, okay, we're gonna push you now, and we're gonna show you that you're actually capable of way more than you think. And so, I mean, some of the stuff you do off of no sleep and no food and stuff, and you finish, and you're like, I did that,
yeah.
and I'm no stud athlete.
Right.
I'm just a normal guy. And it's kind of like, yeah, then it's a 5K, and then it's a 10K. And like this last April, I had a pretty good month. And I was like, 50's in the cards one day.
Yeah.
You know? But
yeah, it's crazy how it grows. And that's kind of what we're talking about. People that, and I've said that before on here, like if you're thinking about doing it, if you're even thinking about showing up, and we said that about our wives, like once they kind of showed up and like saw the energy and the other people there too, they're like, you see the little like, and they're like, well, this isn't like impossible if these people are doing,
Right.
These people are like, they like, and I'll tell you, like, there are people that show up and they will walk the whole thing.
well, yeah.
And some people are there, like they still finish it. It's still time on feet, and some people jog the whole thing. And maybe this is like their fastest they've ever ran. But like, there's people that, that do it that you wouldn't think do it. And you're like, oh, maybe they all are not these super, these crazy, studs. So, if you're thinking about it, do it. And showing up is the hardest thing, and just do it.
I think what keeps most people from doing it is they might see someone who's been doing it for, you take like a Nick Bear or a David Goggins, like I mentioned earlier. It's like, oh, I want to do I want to do Sufferfest.
Right.
So they get on YouTube, like we all do, to, okay, what can I expect? And they see that Nick Bear's out there doing the, like, big trail runs or whatever, like 100 milers and stuff, and they're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not even going to show up. But, like, and that's what I told my wife when we were out here is you have different degrees of can do it. It's just everyone's doing it their own best. Like no one's doing it at my best. I'm doing it my best. They're doing it their best. Like, just show up, because if you don't, you're going to spend your whole life wondering, and no one's going to believe in you more than yourself if you let it happen that way. Yeah. Like, you just got to.
It's contagious.
What's the worst that happens?
If you do
fail.
it, and then if you do fail, and then you just kind of learn from that. If you can, and hopefully you can, and it's understand if we go through anxiety or get depressed and stuff. But like, if you did it, and even like during a race, and you're like, why am I doing this? And then within hours or a couple of days, you're like, man, I did that. That's cool. I want to do it now. And again, now I'm thinking about 50 mile. So if you've done it and you're trying to do a 10K and you only do 2 miles, you're like, dang it. But I wonder if I could still do it. Like, I never really ran 2 miles like that before. That's still something good. I bet if I did train a little more, or if I gave myself an extra week, maybe you just joined your buddy to do it and they gave you like 2 weeks notice, and you're like, you're still like, I'll try. And I only did 2 miles. Like, you have no training and you still showed up and you still did something. Like, imagine what you could do if you actually gave yourself like 2 months. Like,
and I would almost say that if you have this instinct inside you that says, I wonder if I could, you probably can.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, and I went through a little stint there where I was like, okay, I'm going to do Paladuro in October. That means I have to hit a 20-miler once a week. I have to do this, I have to do that. Well, then Sufferfest, just because of the way the cards fell, like I told you, I hadn't done over a 12-mile run in like 2.5 months, showed up and did 23.
Yeah.
So the human body is far more capable than what people give it credit for. I think you just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, that whole no one's ever it's been that book I mentioned to you a long time ago. I think I say a long time ago, but the Do Hard Things book.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of stuff on there. Like, once a certain like record was broke, I can't remember the guy who did the whatever certain like mile record and stuff. But like, once people see and really know it's possible, everyone kind of gets in that threshold and gets closer and closer. So the more you like push yourself and see like the possibilities, like it gets more possible. And no one's ever like pushed their self, really could I think that they pushed themselves to the absolute limit. Like, you're physical, but you could still take another step. Like, no one's ever like last breath died. Right. I say never, I don't know what, depending, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of like paid athletes and sponsored people that are like finish a race and do great. And they're like, I don't think I didn't give it up my all. Like, I didn't crawl across the line like that. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you can do so much.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I know for me, like, I'm not a distance person at all. I just like the challenge of it. And when you get into that, like, I used to tell people, I did a thing where I did it was like 90 days of 10-mile runs every time I ran. Dang. And it wasn't so much mile 1 to 8 really didn't. The run didn't start till mile 8 because I wanted to get to that point where I was tired, I was hot, and I had to step outside of what I thought were my limits or whatever. And that's where I really started to grow, because there's a guy that I actually ran Sufferfest with, and we were talking about it one day, and he was like, yeah, it's all about, everything you do is about rewiring your limits. So, this year, like we mentioned earlier, a couple of years ago, I'd do a 10-mile run, and I thought I'd really, I could barely walk.
Right,
I was
right.
like, people would be like, hey, why are you limping? I'm like, no big deal. I did a 10-mile run today.
Man. Yeah.
And, for some people that is amazing. But now, 2-3 years later, it's like, hey, you want to go do 20? You're like, oh, it's going to suck, but okay.
Right. It's a...
because the limit, you're like, I did 10. What would 15? It's only 5 more. Yeah. It's only 45 minutes. Oh, yeah.
It's such a thing. It's so contagious, and you can, if you willed that correctly, man, it'll bring some growth that is great, and you'll be like, in PRs, and we've talked about this. We kind of mentioned it already. I think if like as long as you're don't compare yourself necessarily. It's good to be realistic and be aware and have like a solid foundation of what you think and know is possible and stuff. But always have that like that little twinkle of like but what if I kill it?
Yeah.
And just push yourself. And what was I going with this? My goodness. I'm looking at this list over here and oh my gosh. What were we talking about? The time,
limits, rewiring limits.
Yeah. Push. It's kind of this. I guess
and you just keep raising that bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all, like you said. It's something to be careful about because I would say most people who do this, you're gonna jump the gun every once in a while. Mm-hmm. I've had stints where I was doing so good, and then all of a sudden. Like I had an IT band problem where I could run, but then I couldn't walk. I couldn't even get in a car when I got done. And I was like, I'm not meant to run. I'm not this. I knew what the right answer was, but I was like, no, I can't because I'll lose fitness, whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually it gets to a point where you have to be smart. And then, so I think you got to be hungry. You got to be fearless. The biggest thing that's going to weigh you down that you have to let go of is your ego and pride.
Yeah.
Ego and pride will be your biggest limiter, I think, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm fast at a 5K. Well, hey, man, you're a good runner. Like, why don't you come out and do this ultra or this, 34K or whatever. It's like, oh, no. I'm good at 5K.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm good at that, so I don't want to find out if I'm not good at it.
Yeah, and what we were just saying a second ago when I said I lost my train of thought was it was the comparison thing. And don't hold yourself up, too much or compare yourself to others. Just do your best that you can do and push yourself, and like then you'll walk away happy with that. But with people, and there's something that like there's obviously Olympians that just run a 5K or a 10K. So it's cool to be in that specific kind of zone and like that's your jam, but if you're not doing other things and not pushing yourself in other things because like maybe you're constantly top 3 and then like your first thought is like, I won't be top 3 in that because I don't train that. Like versus he's right. Versus like, that would be fun. And hey, I would probably learn something from it or grow from it or something. But yeah. Like, that's not,
So that's like Sufferfest. We finished 6 hours. It was like 23 and a half. And like I said, we held a conversation pace the whole way. At no time did I ever look at anyone that finished after me being like, scrub. No, I looked, I was like, it's pretty obvious. I'm like, you fought tooth and nail.
It's admirable,
like, good job. Good. Like, and that's what I love about the trail running community a lot is, okay, cool, you get top 5, you get top 10, you get this, you get that, but like, good job.
Yeah.
Good job finishing. Good job signing up. Good job showing up. And I have seen a couple people, within my friend circle that have gotten burnt out on running, cycling, all this stuff because they see what everyone else is doing and it prevents them from
enjoying it and
like realizing their milestones.
Yeah.
And being happy for their self. That was the old saying, comparison is the greatest thief of joy.
I was just thinking, I can never remember how to word it properly. I usually say like comparison kills growth or self, something like that. But you say it much better. But that's one of my favorite quotes. It's so true.
Well, it was my mantra for a long time because I would see all my achievements, whether it's fitness or jobs or this
and
or
still
that,
not be.
And I'd be like, who is that guy? Because I was so caught up in what other people were achieving. And that's kind of where I've been probably the last year or so is I'm happy for others, but I celebrate myself.
Yeah, that helps.
Hey, cool, man. You did a sub 3 hour marathon. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy about my 20-minute 5K time or my 6 hour trail run. Like you got to be happy for yourself.
Right. It's great to be. I think that when you can kind of let yourself be happy with what you're doing and just like honest effort and work and stuff, and then you kind of realize it kind of opens I think your lens to seeing other people and pushing themselves, and when they're getting through the pain cave and you're like yeah, man, like
Yeah.
get it. Like I love that like energy and just getting pumped and seeing people at the aid station stuff and like, you know, like look at a guy you've been kind of going back and not battling, like competing again, but just like you've seen him on the trail and you know you're both pushing. You're like, brother, like, good job, man. All right, see you later.
Yeah.
And like that guy will be like, hell yeah, like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's awesome, and then the community's great with to finish. I forgot where we were going with the first thing, but so now, did you go straight from military into police force?
No. So I did about a little over 5 years. We lived in Kansas, Louisiana.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had my 2 daughters, or I didn't have, my wife had our 2 daughters while we were in the Army, while we were in Kansas. Kansas was, people have a misconception on Kansas. We lived in Manhattan, which is like northeast Kansas. It's beautiful.
Really?
You have all 4 seasons. It's clean. It's
It's
safe.
not flat and crazy.
My God. Yeah. It was like one year it snowed when we were trick-or-treating. Like, it was a really cool place. And then Louisiana. And then I got out and I tried to get in law enforcement because of my job I had when I was in the Army. I wasn't really qualified to do a whole bunch. So I was like, well, I'll go be a police officer. You know, it's pretty similar. And it's hard to find a job, so I ended up going and working for the prison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was, I mean, they're always hiring. It was, as long as you have
I've looked
a
into it
clean
before.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and I had a lot of fun working there because you really, and looking back now, I am really glad that I didn't go straight from the Army to police work, because in the prison, you have to learn how to not hold people's past against them. You have to interact. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to treat people fairly, because you're outnumbered. Like the wing, the wing I worked on, maybe close to 64 of them, and then only 2 guards.
Yeah.
So you really got to watch how you talk to people, because you're locked in there too.
Yeah. Right.
And so with being in the prison system, and I worked with the more dangerous, the G5s, like the dangerous wings, like I had to wear a stab vest and all that stuff. So I learned how to talk to people.
Yeah, I bet that helps.
Oh, dude,
a lot.
yeah.
And seeing their side of the story of stuff, or understand how to like talk with them, or
Yeah.
just understanding. And yeah.
And you learn to, like, how you can hear or know what, hey, be careful, you know, this guy, this is what he's done or whatever. And you're like, I can be careful, but I don't have to treat you very differently. You know, I don't have to, I can still interact with you.
Yeah.
And you really
respect thing. Like
Yeah.
we can talk and be cool. You know what you do, you know what I do. Like let's
Yeah. It taught me how to talk to people, and it helps me now. I'm a lot more laid back than a lot of people. And it's just, like I said, it's helped me to see everyone as equal and fair, and try to be more understanding.
Yeah, that would definitely.
But yeah, so I did that, and then almost unintentionally got the job I got now. I was looking and stuff, and we were living in Willis at the time, and we had come home, and my dad was like, he was the fire marshal where I lived for a long time, and he was like, hey, the police department is having a test. Why don't you go try it? I was like, I'm not even going to study. I'm not even going to prepare. Like, whatever. I'll just show up.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the written, and they're like, hey, you're number 3. I was like, oh, whoops. And then we did the PT test. They're like, you're number 2 or 1 or whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'll fail this or I'll fail that. Like, one of the things you have to do is a polygraph. Well,
interesting.
People have a misconception that it's a lie detector test. It's actually a stress test is what it really is.
Right, because it's just like heart rate. Right?
Yeah, because I've seen people go in there that just can't handle pressure and I've had friends that have done polygraphs and fail, and they're like, dude, I told the truth. And it's just your nerves.
Right,
get the
especially
best
you know what the machine is, and when they hook it up to you, I'm sure that already like
you're plugged
like,
up like crazy, like an EKG, and you got some guy just drilling you with questions, and you're sitting on a pad, your feet are on a pad, your fingers are hooked up, and you know in your mind it's like this decides my future, and so people get nervous and fail. So I was like, okay, I'll fail the stress test. Okay, I'll fail the interview. And next thing they were like, all right, you start the academy in a couple days. And I was like,
What?
was not ready for that. But it was, I guess it was meant to be.
Right, and here you are. And that what I said at the beginning of the question I thought was related to the position. Did you start off as K-9?
No. So I did night shift patrol for probably 8 or 9 months.
Sorry, I don't want to, but can anyone, I never thought about this. Can a officer start off as a K-9, or do you have to have prior
So
experience?
I've heard different people, and every agency is different, but I've heard of some agencies like, hey, we're looking for a handler.
You need one. Okay.
Because a handler's such a small, community, and it really...
It's a unique spot.
It takes a lot. Like, you can't just hey, here's a dog, here's a leash.
Yeah.
This is the gas pedal. This is the brake pedal.
Off you go.
So I have heard of people getting hired straight on. It's very rare. It's usually a position you have to earn. You have to do your
I would think
time
so. That's what I just thought about it, and think I was like, that's such a unique position. They probably want someone who's serious about it and has experience or wants to really do it.
And before I did it, I was like, give me the leash. I always wanted it.
Yeah.
And now after doing it, it is probably one of the most responsible driven. You have to be on top of your stuff to keep that animal going, and it takes a certain kind of person. These are working dogs. They're not, your golden retriever at home that you show them the ball and
they need a job. They have a job.
I have a Belgian Mal. She's an alpha female, and one of us is going to be in charge. So
what's her name?
Her name's Nora.
Nora.
Yeah, that's my girl. But when we first got together, she didn't look at me as oh, that's a human, he's in charge. She was like, if you let me, I'm going to be in charge. So we had a couple, clash of the minds a little bit, but now the bond that animal and the love that animal has, you almost can't find that amongst humans.
That's such a cool, it's such a cool relationship. And I mentioned earlier, even seeing a working dog, he's like an old farmer and he's got his sheepdog out there running and doing, you're like, man, that's cool. So with the question that I crossed my mind earlier, and I had seen some clip about it or something not too long ago, and it made me think. I was like, yeah, that's not fair. And I can't remember if it. And I'm going to ask you if it's legal or if it's not legal. And I think it's not legal. Okay. Because you have this, and I saw you. We talked about it earlier, and just now you lit up. The dog's cool, to say the least, in that relationship you have with her and stuff. And it's your partner, and you live with her all the time. So you're chasing somebody down, whatever have be it, and they turn around, and now there's a threat, and not on you, he's not pointing a gun at you, but at your dog, at Norris. So
this is a common question.
Right. So, but it's not, it is I'm going to say an officer, but it's a dog, but it's not. So if the threat,
a tool.
Right. If they start stabbing your dog, you can't kill him.
So,
but there is a, or if it's a gun, but then now that's brought into the equation. There's a weapon involved.
So the way that works, and that's hard for handlers.
Yeah.
I can tell you now,
oh my gosh.
I would do anything to protect my dog, because losing that dog would be like losing a child. Now, the deal with that, you see, there's several YouTube videos.
Right, the dog goes after the guy, and the guy gets in and starts.
There was the one where the dude walked out of the gas station. He had multiple aggravated assault warrants and history of violence against everyone. And so they're like, hey, we're going to use a dog maybe to catch this guy because he has shot at people. He has stabbed people. He's a dangerous person. So it makes more sense to risk a dog than to risk an officer. And if we can use a dog to catch him instead of,
if worse comes to worse.
Yeah.
And a dog, yeah.
A dog is, which mine's not a bite dog, but a canine is one of the most effective non-lethal options.
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
It's also a big deterrent.
They're scary.
Yeah. So this video in particular, the guy runs, send the dog, because the dog's faster than we are.
Yep.
I'm, like I said earlier, I'm 170, like I'm dressed right now, which is just shorts and Crocs. In my gear, I'm 201. And most of these people we're chasing are gym shorts, tennis shoes.
Yeah.
You know? So you send the whatever, the dog goes and gets him, and you actually you can't just send the dog on anybody. It has to meet a certain criteria. Like you have to have certain elements, dangerous offense, dangerous criminal history, threat to, like, you have to articulate basically that if this guy does get away, there's an extreme high chance that he could hurt someone.
Okay.
That if he gets away, he could maybe shoot someone and take their car.
Someone is in risk if this doesn't work. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
So they send the dog in. The dog does the dog actually did a really good job. The dude pulls a pistol out of his little shoulder bag. So we've all seen the video. We know how that ends. They ended up using deadly force. The thing with that is they didn't necessarily shoot him to save the dog. It was if he's willing to take this dog's life.
Right.
And now, like you said, a gun's in the equation.
Say he shoots the dog. He's going to go right to the... Exactly.
He's going to shoot the dog.
Or an innocent person or... Yeah.
So that... And there was another video where a guy, like, they sent a dog in and he started stabbing the dog and they shot him because you can articulate that, hey...
He's obviously...
He's a dangerous person. This dog is almost our last line of defense. So if this fails and he gets away, like...
Right, this is us trying not to go to the end of this.
Yeah,
this
that's kind of how that works. They're not necessarily shooting it, like, the report's not going to say that I use deadly force to protect my dog's life. You're going to say, hey, he attempted deadly force or succeeded in deadly force against my animal, and... I have reason to believe, due to his criminal history, that one of us, or if he got away from us, that, Granny heading to Bible school was going to be the next.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we were in a park.
Right.
Kid,
yeah.
So that's kind of how that works.
Okay, and that's about what I figured. It crossed my mind, again, with you having that kind of understanding and background and stuff. I was like, that'll be interesting talk. 'Cause I'm sure other people had that question.
I get that a lot, yeah.
So I guess running stuff.
Oh man,
that's what I wanted to talk about too. So with let me find it. This one was interesting to me. So this kind of would be a good segue. Okay, yeah. So would you say, and I put specifically police officer, but with your background or military and everything, so would you say being a officer with that discipline and military and things has made you a better athlete, or perhaps was like your first like. You at first at school and other things being kind of more athletic and disciplined made you become a better, like, or now I wouldn't say even back then. Nowadays, I guess in the past 5 years or so, would you say being an officer has helped you be an athlete, or being an athlete has helped you be more disciplined, like, at your job? An
athlete. What I do outside of work makes me better at work. 100%.
Okay. Yeah.
100%. So, and I'm my view on the whole fitness thing is like, I don't do what I do to look a certain way, to bragging rights, none of that. I have been in situations that are very stressful, and you have about 2 seconds to make a decision. I've been in situations where I didn't want to be in there, and I think with what we do, especially like the long distance stuff, it's kind of the way I describe it is your training needs to be harder than what you're going to face. And if you can create, like I was saying earlier, the 10-mile runs, it wasn't for mile 1 to 8. I wanted to get to that point where I wanted to quit, and then I wanted to keep going. And so kind of the way I explain it to people sometimes is like, say I take you to a death metal concert and there's a mosh pit. I want you to take this book and this headlamp, go sit down in the middle of it and read the entire book.
Yeah.
So it almost... When you train for adversity and you train to push yourself, you train not afraid to fail, you train dedicated to the finish and stuff, something does happen. And
it helps so many other things.
You're able to make decisions under stress. And I think there's a certain sense of confidence that it gives you where, hey, I tested myself this morning. So now when you're face-to-face with a threat, you're like, I know what I'm about.
And that's what I was going to say. I'm sure there's a level of, like, this isn't my first rodeo. Like, if I've ran, I've pushed myself. I know in the gym I've been doing good if that matters, or you're thinking about it. Or I've ran, I know I can run 20 miles. So not in a cocky way. Like we've kind of, I think kind of aimed it at that, not like to like, well, I know I'm a stud because I ran this, but like, okay, mentally, I know I can accomplish 10 miles. If this guy wants to run and it's going to be a chase, hey, I might have a chance. Like,
yeah, and you go into situations knowing I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for this. And I think a struggle in law enforcement is, man, I got to be careful with this one. A lot of guys, they're like, okay, I got the badge and the gun. I'm good.
I've seen,
and then they get into, these dangerous situations, and they almost react out of, answer.
There's a couple here.
They get in some of these high-stress situations, and I've seen people panic because I think in the back of their mind, they know they're not ready. I've been in fights and, and dangerous situations and involving weapons and stuff that could turn out bad, but I've been calm. My thoughts have been clear, and my breathing's good, my heart rate's good. Like, I'm able, because like with this running stuff, you get to the tail end of a 6-hour run at night in the dark and it's 100 degrees, but you're still able to complete thoughts, make decisions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're able to be physically aware. You're like, hey, I still have an hour to go. I'm at this pace. I'm feeling this way. So then when you do, like, as an officer, you get in these stressful situations, you're able to analyze everything and make a quick decision.
I was going to say, you want a quick like self-diagnostic or your awareness of what's going on. Like, this is how I feel. This is not good. I know this is good with me. All right, check system. Like,
yeah, and that's why like the Army, I shouldn't generalize, but like the job area that I worked in, they preach, push yourself, PT, hard PT. Because you're going to get in a situation one day where your life or someone else's life is going to be at stake, and you're going to have to be able to make a decision. So you got to learn how to operate under stress. And the safest way to introduce stress into your life for training is fitness. You don't need to just go to Walmart and pick fights with people so you're ready for the next one. But
don't do that.
yeah. You just go out and push yourself in a controlled environment, and it definitely does help.
With 100%. With, I was gonna say, one note about Sufferfest that I noticed, because I was gonna I did some research. I tried to do some research, like my handwritten sloppy notes here, that y'all listeners can't see, but it's good. I will say, I looked up because there's loops here for like the one loop like we ran this morning and everything. Your time, I think it was by like 10 or 5 minutes. You ran a faster loop than I did on my Sufferfest. And I was like, immediately it was like, oh, really? Like, now I got to go and like it beat that. But I was like, I'll tell him. That'll be.
I didn't know that.
So and I know. And I was like, I bet that'll be listed on there. And I checked. You can like pick a specific segment, and then all the people you follow.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I was like, oh, cool.
We all do that sometimes.
And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I was like. Oh, and I was like, 5 or 10 minutes or something below, and I was like, dang, I think it was hotter when he ran it than I did and stuff. But so that's a fun note. But with that, great work, man. It was tough, and I heard stories about it of people kind of just like, dude, that Sufferfest is such a good word for it. What's next? Yeah, so what's your goals for the year?
Paladuro.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, my
what's
first.
the distance?
What was it? 50K?
Yeah, 30 miles, something like that. 31.
It'll be my first ultra. And so
I would love to run Paladuro. It's awesome.
My friend, he's ridden it, mountain bike and road bike. There's a thing called like 24 in the Canyon where you get on like a team, and it's like, I think the laps.
Like a relay?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I can't remember how many people are on your team, but they have it for mountain bikes and road bikes. He did the road bike one, and I want to say the loops are 8 or 10 mile loops, and it's teams, and you just see who can get as many loops as possible in 24 hours.
Awesome.
And he just said it's beautiful.
That's awesome. That's just how the thing I just ran was. It's like, all right, team, go and just keep on going.
And I've never been there. Everyone says it's beautiful, and we're kind of doing it as like a family thing. Let the kids go see Palos. So we're going to get there a couple days early.
Yeah.
And then I want my kids to see their dad do stuff. So
that's a good topic. That drives me a lot.
Yeah, that's because I didn't grow up with that. My dad, he worked 2 jobs, and all this or whatever. And, that did help me now in adulthood, but like, because fitness is such a big thing, it can lengthen your life. And I want my kids to live as long as they can. So like my kids see that I don't miss days. It doesn't matter if I get 3 hours of sleep or if we're out of town or if it's raining, if it's snowing. They see, just like Dad takes the trash out, he's out there lifting, he's out there running. And so my kids are growing up with that in their brain. And then I think with them, because let's be honest, any ultra distance is ridiculous. So with them seeing,
leading by example is powerful.
Right. And, Dad's had 2 knee surgeries. He's had this, and I'm not necessarily built like a runner. For them to see me do something, I hope that, when I'm old, that I'll get to go watch my kids do their first ultra and stuff, because that's huge, man.
I think it's, and that drives me a lot. My kids know, and they'll say sometimes, my wife's told me, they'll get home or from someplace like, oh, where's Dad? Is he running? Like they know that I do it, and like not in like a bad way, like oh he's gone again, but like they're like, okay, because they know Dad likes that, and I come back and play with them, and they'll like, oh how was that? And something not you could do it as a discipline wise, but like as chores too around the house that they come and do things, I'll be like, run 5 times around the house, or whatever. Or if my son sees me kind of doing some stretching or like light little workout stuff, he'll like, I'll just like, come on man, that dude loves burpees. He will knock out some burpees. And the other day, he was like sitting on the couch or something and was like, man, I need to get up and do, it's kind of like, replicating me or Dad or something, whatever. It was just like did some like, high butt in the air, kind of goofy push-ups, but like did it. And my wife told me about that. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Like there were times, cause you also gotta be careful. You don't want to like push. But there was times, like you said, stretching, and all of a sudden, my 8-year-old's in the
and
floor
they see that, and they're like,
yeah,
come on.
Like getting shoes on to go run, and my son's like, hey, when you get back, can you run a mile with me?
Yep.
And that mile with him is better than any 20-mile run that I could ever do. And so they see that, and like now I bought my kids some like Walmart fitness watches and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, Dad, look at my heart rate. Dad, look at my steps.
It's exciting for them, especially if they see you doing it. Yeah.
And like I bought my son some Hoka Cliftons, and then my middle child, she's like, "Where's mine? I want to run. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that." And so you create that standard. Like that's the thing with kids.
Yeah, and the possibility. Like, look, and my dad still works, and he cares for us and takes, loves us and all this, and he runs and works out, and like, it's you can do it and it's possible. And they'll see other people that not in a bad way, but they're just wondering, like they're more likely to be like, so what do you run? It's like, I don't run. Like, oh,
right. Or like, there might come a day where my son, he might have a family one day, and you're going to face some adversity there, and he might get in a really rough spot, and he's gonna fall back to, what did my dad do? Mm-hmm. Did my dad, he only got so much sleep and he skipped out on a run day, so I'm stressed out right now, so I'm just going to cop out on it.
Right.
And so I think what I'm trying to get across to them is stay true to the process and don't give yourself an excuse, because life doesn't care.
Yeah.
Life does not care. You got to show up still. Like, you can't just let life dictate what you do.
Yeah. There's a good, if I say his last name correct, Marcus Aurelius.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Plenty of good quotes from him, but it's like, if it's endurable, endure it. Stop complaining.
Yeah.
Amen, brother. Like, I'll shut up
Haynes, now. No one cares, work harder.
Yeah, the good stuff like that. You're like, okay.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. Like, be proud of yourself, but don't hang your hat on it either. Yeah. Don't be like, a year ago I did that Sufferfest. I don't really care what you did a year ago. I care about what you do this morning. I care about what you're doing now.
Yeah, I used to be such a good quarterback. Like,
all
right. Yeah.
People, you work out? Like, yeah. And they ask, they always, what do you squat? What do you lift? What do you run? 15 years ago, about 30 pounds ago. It's like, man, that's neat. But like, what did you do this morning?
Yeah. A lot of things add up and they stack up, and we need to be conscious of what is what's the name of the pallet, or do you know who's putting it on?
No, I really don't.
And I'm trying to think too. I know one of my guys who I actually interviewed, Philip Sebastiani with the High Plains Elite racing team. He lives up there, and he's a stud. And he's like a teacher too, super nice guy. He's great, but he runs there all the time, so he gets to experience that all the time. I know he's going to be there. He told me a little bit if he's not even helping there. I think he helps set up the track and the course and stuff. But
this one's whichever one they do every October every year. It's the main whatever.
I wanted to do, and I was looking into it. Lake Murray in Oklahoma is also around October time, so in like a month or so.
It's a really cool place, and
it's the weekend. It's like the 25th or something, and my wife's birthday is the 23rd. So I was like, okay, if I can talk to her about it, if she wants to do something, we're not big on like birthdays. Yeah. Like we're like, everyone has a birthday. Like I love you. I'll be like, hey, happy birthday. Love you.
Just a reminder you're getting older.
Exactly. Yeah. So she may not care. But, and of course it's like $100-something. But I wanted, the 50K is one lap. And like, that's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The double laps. I know here for Suffer, I was like,
again. And again. Yes. So one lap. 30 miles. I'm like, that's nice. One big loop, be done. And I've always heard good things about the race. Last year it got rained out and stuff. It was nasty. But so I've been looking into that one. I don't have anything else really lined up other than this Friday we're talking on the trail is the Quanah Hill Massacre.
Yeah, that's an awesome trail.
So and I think I've ran there once. I had that little memory flash when we were out there talking about it too, and I was like, actually, I think I might have been out there, but I've heard people talk about that one and stuff, and it's I really have wanted to try the whole backyard style, like on the hour go.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people do that, and it's free, and it's kind of like from what I've heard too and how it's written, it's like more like a hangout, bring some stuff to share. You could sit and not run for 2 hours and then go out and run again and whatever else. So
you're around like-minded people.
Yeah, that's it too. Cool. It's everyone there that wants to be there, so everyone's going to be encouraging each other, and it's a night race too.
Yeah.
That brings a whole another cool element to it.
And that's the trail community is like, you're not going to find, which you may, there's bad apples everywhere, but you're for the most part, you're not going to find anyone that's like, dude, why'd you even show up?
Yeah, right.
Everyone's going to be like, dude, good job, man.
Yes.
And that's what, it's a really cool community.
It's infectious. Yeah, it's really good. It helps, I think, people that do run it like that and they want to keep it that way, so they kind of share the love too, and it's so good when you're running. I asked my wife that when she ran the Coyote redo at the 6-0 ranch race that we ran.
The hot, muggy mud run.
Yeah, I asked her, I was like, so did you, have a good experience? Were people nice? And she's like, yeah, people were really cool and like would either run with me for a second or pass me and be like, looking great, like bye. And like, she's like, it was fine. Like, it was really good. So she enjoyed it. And that's, again, something to say, if you're thinking about a race, do it, because people are just going to encourage you.
And I think one of the most rewarding things when you do your first one, because you show up. My first one was last January at Tyler. First trail run I ever did. I was like, I'm going to do a trail race. Yeah, and I'm going to do 11 at Tyler State Park, which is an amazing trail. I showed up, nervous, self-doubt.
Is this the Rose?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Butterflies, whatever. I show up. I had no idea where I finished at the time. I just knew I was very, very tired, and my legs were noodles. And when I realized not only did I do it, like, wow, I did it. I saw my placement, which was pretty good. I think I got 15th out of 150. And people I didn't even know, pat me on the back and all this, and you're like, I had nothing to be scared of here.
Yeah, right. I
showed up. I did something I didn't think I was going to be able to do. I did decent, and everyone was welcoming. So I think that's something you'll find in your first one, that it's almost nostalgic to a sense. Like, hang on to that, because that sense of like home,
pass it,
and like acceptance,
and pay it forward, and
it
makes you want to do it. You want to, get out there and good man, looking good job, especially on certain races that are down and backs, like you pass people coming at you,
Everyone.
And you can,
man.
it's so much. And then I also like those because you can kind of gauge like how you're doing, or someone, how if you're trying to stay with someone or something like that, but. Yeah, and you can see people's faces when they're coming at you too, and you can tell if they're like, they've been like, dude, that guy's still going. Like, he looked like rough the last time I saw him, and he's still going, like, killing it, bud, good job. And they'll be like, thank you.
And sometimes, because I've hit those points too, where I'm like, I'm hitting threshold of effort, and I'm tired, and I still got 4 more to go, and you're hitting that moment where you're like, maybe I need to back off maybe for a couple minutes, and then you pass somebody fitness levels might not be the same, and they're like, hey, dude, good job, you're killing it. That's like taking a 30-minute nap. You're all of a sudden, you're like, NOS. Hit the NOS button, like, and sometimes you get to return that favor with people. You see someone that's struggling, and you pass them, and they see you as like, man, that guy's killing it. What am I doing out here? And then as that person that they see that way, when you're like, it doesn't take but a second.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, good job. Keep going. You're almost there. And they're like,
Yep.
I am almost there.
Yep.
So it's cool.
It helps, and especially when you're done at the race and you may see the person like after they're done, you know, and again, be like, man, I saw, way to finish strong. I saw you, and that's just like.
Yeah, especially when I had people do that on some of these, and I'm like, I didn't even know you saw me out there.
Yeah, right.
And they're
right.
like, dude, you killed it. And you're like, I did?
Yeah, it was
cool.
It's some good stuff. I know I was going to say this year, but we're almost over with this year. But just in general, what do you think? What are some strengths or things that you lean on when you're in a race or when you're running? And what are some things that you're working on?
Strengths for me, I think just all the things I've been through from childhood, stepping
more like
up
mental
as a
side
dad
and understanding
like
the discipline.
Yeah, and this sounds kind of off, but I'm like, the worst thing that happens is I fail. The best thing that happens is I prove myself wrong. Yeah. And so the mind thing for me, it's like, in like Sufferfest, I told myself several times, like, this is what you wanted. You wanted to test yourself. You asked for this, so don't waste this moment. This is where you validate. This is where you find out, that you're human, but you're capable of more than what you think you are. So the mind, I think, and I see that a lot. Like, you got guys like David Goggins and Chad Wright, guys that were in combat arms, like in the military, like it builds a certain mentality.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of them you see switch over to endurance sports, because it's not just a 20-minute race. Like, you really got to be able to suffer and hang in there. So that's definitely something, because I'm not the fastest in the world, but that's something I can go.
If you think that, like the no quit, get it done kind of attitude.
You're going to have to kill me.
That goes a long way.
Yeah.
That helps. That's definitely helped me through dug me out of some, and not just running, but other things in general. That's such a good mindset.
Just don't give up.
Mindset is, you already showed up, you're there, I think about, it's that secondhand fun when you talk about it later, like, oh man, it was rough, but we got it done. But also like talking to myself. It's like, there was a point when you signed up for this, you're like, it's going to be hard. That's why you want to do it. And right now you're complaining because it's hard. And a week from now or whatever, you're going to be like, dude, why didn't you, like, you acted like a baby. And if I have, thankfully I've never like DNF, but like, if I didn't push myself in a race, so I'm like, you knew you were going to get to this point.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell yourself later when you're talking to yourself, like, what was that? Like, you gave up.
Something for me, and it was through life experiences. Like I mentioned earlier, that I'd quit a whole bunch of stuff before, like, stuff didn't go my way, and I just dropped it and walked away. I've learned that, because, I mean, some of that stuff, man, I'm 34 now. I was like 15, 16, whatever. I still feel those burns.
Wow.
Quitting is a quick end, but it lasts forever.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
a regret.
Victories are, it takes work to get to it, so it's the long haul answer. However, it's short lived, because like me now, like I finished Sufferfest. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in one piece. I didn't cramp. I finished in less than 6 hours, whatever. What's next?
Yeah.
Instead, if I would have quit,
I'd
have been like, man, like, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
Why? When you could have finished. And if you are to a point in a race where you're watch your stats, watch your heart rates, watch your intake, watch your sweat.
Be smart. Of course, there's times.
If you are at a point where you're like, hey, I need to hit this aid station for a little bit longer than the other ones, or I need to maybe walk for 10 minutes, do it.
Yeah.
But walk, recenter yourself, and then keep going. Like,
do
not quit. So, and then I guess that something I'm trying to work on for me is just probably efficiency. As far as like focusing my training.
Okay.
And just becoming a better runner in general, being mechanically sound.
Like an overall
like
understanding of, okay.
And just being a little bit faster. Everyone wants to be a little bit faster. But
putting in the steps in the right order in the right time
yeah.
and understanding.
Showing up ready.
Yeah, giving yourself more arrows in your quiver.
Yeah,
to have,
for
more
sure.
paint on your canvas to do something with that goes a long way.
Because that's the training up to an event is like you'll hit points where you're like, I'm tired of this, and you will put pressure on yourself and all that, but and it's interesting because you put in hundreds of hours to train for something if you do it right, and then it's really only going to pay off for that little 5-minute episode you have out there.
Right.
But you'll be glad you did it.
Oh, they're playing a radio now.
Yeah, people are jamming.
We're out here at the park just sitting out. If you haven't heard the wind and the helicopters, and some people having a good time over there by the lake, and they just turn on some music, and it sounds like opera almost.
Yeah, and that guy showed up when I got here.
That's a good way to spend a Saturday. Again, it's been pretty nice this morning.
This is an awesome park.
Dude, it's a sweet place. Let me see what I've got. Man, so this is always a fun one, talking about kind of gear and stuff sometimes. But is there any gear or like running type product stuff that you would recommend and maybe one you wouldn't recommend? Or something that works for you that may work for somebody else, and then something that like maybe you tried and it like did not work or broke?
So trail running specifically, shoes. Shoes
That's
are
the biggest thing. Yeah.
I'm a big Hoka Speed Goat guy. I'm sure there's better.
Those are great. I mean, a lot of people.
I mean, I pulled them out of the box and ran my first trail race and no issues. So
okay.
I'm a huge Speed Goat. I'm a Hoka fanboy. A good hydration vest. And a moneymaker for me this summer was simple purchase. I upgraded from a 1.5 liter to a 2.5 liter bladder.
Oh yeah.
And
love it.
Oh, dude, it's just that little bit of extra water goes a long way. And your hydration flask with the straws.
Yes.
Because, like we talked about earlier, when you're in that situation where your heart rate's jacked, you're tired, you kind of want to quit, but you're trying to hang in there as hard as you can. The littlest things can really be a wrench in the gears. Yes. And so, like, you get your flask, but you got to like bend your head all weird. Yeah. You got to take it out.
Can't
then it gets stuck
and
all that. So the little straw things.
I love it.
Now, like we talked about earlier, I ran with the full length straws for so long. Like I told you, it was like I felt like a grasshopper.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I cut 2 inches off. So now it's like literally I just turn my head. And it's
I can cut these. Yeah.
So the flask, depending on weather, I like warmer months. I like to drink my calories. Colder months, I'll hit the goose or whatever.
Mm-hmm. How's your stomach? Do you have my stomach? I haven't really ran into anything.
No.
Like trail related that didn't sit right with me, and again that depends on the person and your diet and all this stuff.
I have had some goose before that it's like hung in my throat, and I've had some flavors. Like I got a mocha flavor once.
Yeah, chocolate never sounds that good with me. Like I have one now, but I'm like, maybe one day I'll be like, that's gonna be good.
It's like drinking coffee syrup while you're running, and it just is like, oh, this is not good. So, not too strong of a flavor. Like I like G1M by BPN.
I've heard of those.
A little carb mix with a bunch of stuff. That's what I had today.
Gotcha.
So, and Tailwind's pretty good. The flavor, not a big fan of the flavor, but you definitely get the calories.
That's what I like with the calories and a little bit of carbs in something liquid. And so I'm like, that's what I had today. Just my flask, and I was like, this has carbs in it. If I want extra, I have like a little goo with me, but this is usually fine. I know how it sits with me, and I'm like, this should be okay. So,
but so I'd say good shoes, good vest. For trail running, I like the Swiftwick socks because they provide a little bit of ankle support, and they don't slide around under your feet. So I've never had a single blister with the Swiftwick socks.
Nice. I have to look into those. I'm big on. I like the socks. I have the Balega. If I'm saying it right, I think it's kind of a popular brand, but those have been great. I've bought a couple pairs now, and they're all like comfortable and thick, and they have how they're sewn together over like the top of the toe, so no like weird spots and stuff. And those have those have been fine. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to break it, not change it if it's not.
With what we're doing, you really got, if your feet aren't taken care of, man, you're in for a rough ride.
Definitely.
So good vest, good bladder.
Anything that you tried that didn't work well or broke or?
I'm trying to think.
I don't know, and sometimes there's not too many. Like that's kind of a good thing about what
underwear.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have thicker thighs, So chafing can sometimes be a problem, and finding the right underwear that doesn't ride up or whatever. And then I think they're called Step 1. They're made for running, and they don't ride up, and they made out of different materials. Like, you don't have any issues. So, because that's painful, man. When you start chafing.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely those.
It's one of those little things that, like, especially if you're doing 30 miles and you're in mile 15, you're like, oh no, I'm halfway.
Every time your thighs touch, it just burns. So yeah, as far as stuff that hasn't worked, I mean, like I said, the shoe thing. Like I ran back when I started running. I was running the same shoes I was lifting in, and I was like, "Why does running suck so bad?" And then I get in a pair of Hokas, and I was like, "What is this? I can do this."
Oh,
but yeah, as far as stuff that doesn't work, showing up not ready. I mean, that's really about it.
It's mostly you, yeah.
I haven't. Before I buy anything and try anything, like I study it, I research it.
Yeah.
So I haven't really found anything that's really been bad.
Typically, runners or endurance, like we're not having, trail runners maybe more so if it's a headlamp or like I've never ran with poles, but the poles come into the equation at some point. I've never used them, but I've seen people use them and they're a thing.
And
maybe hats or sunglasses or like,
a good pair of sunglasses that fit right. Because you get fog, you get sweat drips in them, whatever. But
mine ride sometimes up too close to my to me, and like it stops like the air behind them, and I don't like it. Makes my eyes sweat more because there's no air getting back there, so I got to keep pulling them down to my nose.
And I've been like that before, where you almost get like overstimulated, and you take them off, and you're like, okay, I can breathe now.
Yes.
But headlamp, I use the Phoenix.
Yeah,
it's a little pricey, but you can see the trail like it's daytime. And I'd run some on the road back home because we don't have trails where I'm at. But if it keeps me from getting hit by a car, I will spend the extra money.
They will see you.
Yeah, with that on. And I ran my Phoenix on high beam for the whole 6 hours of Sufferfest, and it still had juice.
Is it one of those that has like the battery pack on the back?
No,
and it's all front.
It's all front.
Really?
Yeah. It's all front. It's got a hot, like the LED main beam that's got 3 settings, and then it's also got an amber lens, which is like a fog.
Yeah.
We talked about like you run. If you ever run when it's super humid, it's drizzling
misty,
or whatever, you get that snow blindness or whatever.
Yes.
Well, that fog light just pierces right through it.
Yeah, that's super. It's
real helpful.
That's nice
because that's
when
frustrating.
You need it. Yeah, you're like time to go for a run, and then you. Yeah.
And see, I didn't use a headlamp for the longest, and we were staying in Dallas for my daughter's sheep show, and I was going to run a 5K where we were staying. We were next to Deep Ellum. I didn't use a headlamp. I misjudged a crack in the road. It ended up being cracked pavement over railroad tracks. My toe got hung in it.
Oh, yes. Tell me the story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt the pop, and I was like, I broke it. I tried to step. I passed out. I was out so it sent my wife an alert, my grid coordinates and where I was at, and that I hadn't moved. So I was able to use the initial detection. It sent her to when I actually woke up and called her back, and I was out for almost 5 minutes. I guess I didn't eat, and then the shock and the pain, or whatever.
The body.
I really thought I broke my ankle. But what I ended up doing was there's some tendons that run from your shin to your ankle, and they kind of connect down on the bone. I pulled the tendons off the bone. So I got up. I was like, I told everyone I was doing a 5K. I'm doing a 5K. The run had already saved itself. That's how long I was taking a nap for. So I just restarted my watch.
Dude.
I did my 5K, and then I limped around for about 8 weeks. But after that, I was like, headlamp.
Headlamp is a must.
Yeah.
And I learned that you can still... Yeah, that's one of those moments you're like, talk about adversity. Guess what? I was still able to do it. And then not in a...
I finished what I said I was going to do.
That's the thing. Yeah, not like a cocky way. Like, you could really be good because I'm good. I'm so good that I fell and did, not in that way. Like, hey, look what your body can do. Like, man, I passed out and I was still able to, like, good determination. Yeah.
Hobble to the finish.
Finish on quotes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, so it's almost, there's an upkeep to all that. Is once you learn that about yourself and you start implementing it, you have to keep doing it, because I'm a firm believer, like, everything's a habit. So once you start like that, if I'd have been like, oh, I have nothing to prove, it's fine. Anyone in their right mind would call it a day now, but it's like, no, because if I give myself this out right now, the next time I face adversity, I'm gonna be like, hey, remember that one time and you gave yourself a break? Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's a slippery slope because there is a time
It can be dangerous.
you need to be smart, but that's where it falls into. You have to know yourself, and the only way you're going to learn yourself is by putting in the time.
100%. That's the catch. They like, well, I don't know if I should do it because maybe I'll hurt myself. It's like, well, you don't know if you'll hurt yourself either until you hurt yourself or until you put in the time, and you be smart. There's that step about how you do it, and then you slowly kind of put, like, when I got back into running, my running career on quotes, but my time training and getting into, I've always kind of been more of a runner. A little football and track and stuff in high school. I didn't go to like college, but I got into like obstacle course racing. It's like, oh man, like that's so cool. I've always wanted to do that, and I did okay in like my first one or two, and I was like, this is fun. Like I like to run anyway, and then you're kind of playing around, and then I learned there's a competitive side to it, and like those people win money and they have like a championship and stuff, and I was like, that's cool. So that got me, more running and competing, but it's all like no longer. They had some long distance ones, and but it, maybe 8 miles or something like that, and just like some of the obstacles would like a break anyway, because like if it's arm based monkey bars or something, your legs get a break, or especially if you're not doing the competitive waves. You sometimes you have to wait in line, so it's like a break, and it's fun. It is cool. And it's good to push yourself. That's a great. My kids have done a couple, and they like it. And for kids, it's a blast. They're just like, okay. And there's like a bubble thing at the end and stuff. But so I did that for a few years and got competitive, and that was like the peak of mine. I was going to ask you in a second. We kind of finished with this about what other sports or like how your trainings looked for the year and stuff, because when I don't know, I would say that's maybe the fittest I've been, because I had like a broader range of what I was doing, like kind of what you talk about, like high intensity stuff, and then go run, and then, carry a sandbag, drop, sprint, carry a sandbag, like that kind of stuff. And I like that was cool. That's a different level. And I definitely think it helped me build like a base and definitely have like the work ethic to put in to do it, or to build it for something else. And then I stopped for a little bit with schooling, and then kind of did other kind of sport things or try something else. And I was like, I still missed running. And then I was curious about the distance stuff and time, and I always thought that was wild. Like I've never ran like 10 miles or an hour and a half or something else, and then like you get caught up in watching cool stories of people running some trail or setting like an FKT and these records and stuff, and like I ran across the state of Colorado. Like, do what?
Yeah,
and
like that dude that ran across Africa. Did you see that?
No,
dude. Yeah,
it's that kind of stuff. Yeah. You're like, go you. Like I want to. You kind of look into it, and you want to do a little race, and you're like, so. And getting back into it. My goodness, what made me start with this conversation?
You're kind of like,
is it training?
Training,
I
basically.
Think, but where I am now is just mostly endurance. But I want to bring in more. I'll do a little bit of workouts here and there, mostly just body weight stuff and all that. But I guess that's where I was kind of going with it, trying to get back to. But I was going to ask, because I know you kind of have some other stuff you can pin as more fit, and like Jacob said earlier, he looks fit, like you think he's a runner, but you're definitely like stocky. Like I think you're like a CrossFit guy.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Okay, so yeah, what's your training look like, or what do you typically like a week look, and like what do you else like compete in or like?
So like I said, my body reacts to strength training. So for a while, I did this mentality of like, I'm going to do what I'm good at, and I'm just going to avoid everything else. So I got into powerlifting, and I got, like I said, I get strong fast because of the way I'm built. But I was actually in the Army, and we were doing a training thing. We only had like limited equipment, and we had this dude we had to share. And he was a CrossFitter, and at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, CrossFit, like, Snap City,
right.
And I got destroyed. Destroyed. And so I got big into CrossFit, and I got obsessed with this idea of being able to just, if I wake up, I want to be able to go do a marathon. If I want to go squat, I want to be able to squat. I want to, because say you run to a problem, what are you going to do when you get there? You're going to run around it? Like, you need to be able to apply strength. So there's the hybrid athlete thing's a big movement right now. So I try to balance weightlifting, conditioning, running, and all that. I do compromise running once a week. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge, yeah. And so, like, for me, a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I call them gym days. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are run days. Sunday is rest. So, depending on the days, because my work schedule's, like, weird. Like, one
I was
day,
going to say, and what's the time that you're usually doing this at?
4 in the morning.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Yeah, so, I'm not off every Monday. I'm off every other Monday. I'm not off every Tuesday. I'm off every other Tuesday because of the way my work falls. So the days are different, but basically, as far as the Monday, Wednesday, Friday goes, one of those days is barbells. So squat, bench, I do full body every time. So I'll warm up on like the rower. Then I'll squat, I might bench, I might deadlift, I might power clean or row.
Right.
And then those will be the main movements. So then I'll be like, okay, what's an accessory for squat? I'll do lunges. So accessory for deadlifts, I'll do kettlebell swings, whatever. So I try to hit a main movement with an accessory movement and finish on like the ski machine. Dang. So yeah, and that's usually just for time. And then one of the other gym days will be I won't touch a barbell. It's sandbags, a lot of Turkish get-ups, throw a sandbag on your back and walk up and over a box.
Okay. That functional kind of
just 100-pound sandbag cleans and kettlebell swings and goblet squats, ring dips, pull-ups, stuff like that. And then I'll usually throw a Metcon in there. I like the Echo bike, so I'll grab the Echo bike and maybe like burpee box jumps and then like legless rope climbs.
Oh man!
So that's one day, and then one of my other gym days will be like a high rocks or a compromised run day.
And I was going to ask you about that's the kind of team competition thing you got coming up.
Yeah, in November. High rocks is basically 8 stations and a 1K run between everything. And it's like ski, row, wall balls, sled push, sled rope pull.
Right, and then run.
Burpees,
so it's that compromise.
Yeah, so you'll do like so much on the ski, 1K all effort.
Okay.
And then you might come back and push a sled 1K and whatever. And so it kind of teaches you hammer a run and then transition into moving something.
Yes, 100. When I was doing the obstacle course training stuff, that's what play with the sandbag or bear crawl for something or farmer's carry, whatever, and you're already like, but now I'm not carrying that. Like, oh look, you can still run, and then
and
run.
it does something for your fitness too, because like, man, you come off of an all effort row. And then you go hit like a 1K at like a 7:30 mile pace. You like I hit 196 yesterday on mine. But basically the way one of those workouts will list for me will be like a 1 mile warm up, and then I'll do like 4 rounds of like yesterday was 1 mile warm up, 250 meter ski, 500 meter run. And then 25 wall balls, 500-meter run, and then 100-meter farmer carry. That's 1 round 4 times, and then I finished with 10 minutes on the rower. So that's kind of my comp run day. And those are the 3 gym days a week. And then running-wise, it'll be I do 1 speed day, usually intervals, and then I do a long easy, which I usually try to hit over 2 hours or more. And then the other run day, if I want to do a 10K, I do a 10K. If I want to run a trail, I'll come run a trail. Like, I kind of that's my day.
Yeah.
That's my day to kind of have fun and still keep it fun.
It's important.
Yeah, and so when it cools down, I'll start incorporating a couple doubles a week. So I'll hit my main thing in the morning, and then towards the evening, a 2 mile run and it might be slow, it might be fast. I just kind of let my body decide what we're going to do. And then I might hit like a CrossFit Metcon where, you ski,
you
power cleans,
yeah,
toe to bar, stuff like that. And that's kind of how the cooler months will look. Because I work out in my garage. I don't have AC right now, so I'm kind of playing with the heat and giving myself this month. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Jeez.
The days I work, out there at 4. The days I'm off, I'm out there by maybe 7:30, whatever.
It's nice to get it done early too. Like today, we got this. We're gonna I will be not a not confident, but like, anyway, happy to, like, dude, this day already, I ran 11 miles with a buddy and hung out and recorded a podcast and like, cool. Oh, it's not even lunchtime yet. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're like, cool. And that makes me want to help, be more of a positive person around other people.
Yeah.
And, be, selfless and stuff. Like, I did my thing today,
And then I know tomorrow, Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday I get to sleep.
Get to hang out.
And I get to just kind of chill, rest. And I am bad about, like, if I don't stick to it, I won't rest for weeks. I'll be like, I feel pretty good.
Right.
We'll do a quick 5, Yeah, but you gotta, even if you don't feel like you need a rest day, you really probably do.
I think it helps you with wanting to, like, if you got a little itch to, like, I'm feeling fine today. I could do a little something. Maybe this. I didn't really hit shoulders or whatever that much. And then, like, well, maybe, when time to come after today, you'll really, like, want to do good. And
so that's something I learned very quickly. I actually learned it through Chad Wright, the ultra dude.
Yeah.
He's like, be deliberate. Have your deal or whatever, but be deliberate about it. So, like, if it's a speed day, do a speed day. Yeah. Whatever. So, like I said, I might wake up tomorrow and be like, man, I really want to run. And I'll be like, okay, you will run Tuesday. Be excited about
it. Be ready to
run.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like with kids, like, hey, I want this game. Well, we're not just going to go get it now. We're going to make you wait because it means more. So, like, tomorrow, if I wake up and I'm like, man, I really want to do, like, if I wake up tomorrow, I'm like, man, I want to row, bench, and wall balls. Okay, well, Monday when I do my Metcon at the end of my workout, that's what it'll be. But right now, you're going to rest.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, be deliberate.
Be deliberate and
persistent.
Is such a, know that, building that kind of, that rhythm, that habit to say to work is great, but give yourself the rest day. And I'm big on if the goal today is to stay around a certain pace and just be time on feet, do that.
Yeah.
Halfway through,
that's a big one.
Don't say, hey, there's a segment up here.
Yeah.
And I bet I could get after it. Maybe we'll do intervals today. Now I'll just do, like, stop.
Well, I've learned with that, we all Garmin, whatever. I watch my body battery. So if my body battery says 5 in the morning and I'm running, I'm like, hey, I feel kind of good. I know that if I do push it, it's going to make my recovery take longer.
Yeah, right.
So, all this comes in experience, but it's like, you can do it, but what's it going to take away from?
Yeah.
And I think there's a threshold with training where, like, the gym stuff, I'm in and out in usually about an hour or so. And I'm like, okay, I hit that good spot. I'm going to gain from that. And I didn't take away from my recovery for the rest of the day. So you kind of have to balance that.
Yes.
Because you can, like you said, you can send that segment, but that zone 2 run just turned into a zone 2 pace at like a threshold heart rate.
Exactly. And now for the rest of the, whatever you're trying to do, your heart rate's a little messed up. And then you will feel like you still owe yourself that, like, slower run day or that time on feet, less effort kind of day, because you're like, well,
stick to the plan.
I didn't really, you'll go against both those things. You'll say, well, I was kind of tired because that wasn't the plan to, like, run that segment like that. So I didn't really give a good effort. And then also I ran that segment, so it messed up my lower heart rate day.
Yeah.
So now so what'd you do? Like, you put some time in, but now you don't feel like it was worth, like, what you wanted to get accomplished. You can't really check that box off. I would say, the things to take away that we talked about on the trail, and then here too, is just, push yourself, but be smart. Understand to not, don't compare yourself to other people, but, do the best that you can do. Be smart, be deliberate. Know that if you're just kind of starting this journey, like, so are other people.
And with that, I tell people all the time that, man, I want to get into it. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do what you're doing. I'm like, no, don't worry about doing what I'm doing. Do what you need to do.
Yes.
The hardest part is starting. The easiest part is quitting. So don't spend all your time in your fitness journey. Well, I've quit 20 times, and then I had to restart 20 times.
Yeah.
Start once. And if, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've had times where, man, it's interval day, I'm fried, my legs are sore, whatever, I didn't get a lot of sleep. Still do your intervals, but no one said it has to be all out.
Right,
Like the
listen
other
to
day,
your body.
Yeah, I'm coming off of, because of rescheduling with the races or whatever, I'm coming off of basically 2 deload weeks and then an easy week. So I did intervals, whatever day it was, I don't remember. It might have been Tuesday or Thursday, I don't remember. Instead of my intervals being in the 6s, my intervals were a stride effort, high 7s.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to kill it. Like don't go into everything thinking like I did this last time, so now I have to do that or better.
And there's something to say before I wreck myself with mixing words up. When you start the process, especially if you get a Strava, which is very common and it's very helpful. There's been times where I wanted to have a hard day and I didn't know what to do, and I'd go like find a local segment and be like, oh, cool, let's try that.
Yeah.
But when you do start running, if you're using an app, typically you're going to start getting a lot of early like badges and like awards and notifications like, hey man, you ran that faster than last time. Good. And it's like the likes on social media of stuff. Like you're like, ooh, I want that.
Yeah.
I didn't get a little medal or whatever. And I'm like, that's the 3rd fastest time you ran this segment, or your 5K time went up a little bit. And you're like, ooh, like it gets dangerous.
Careful.
But it's good. Be aware of it again.
Yeah.
But listen to your body and be careful of it.
Let
it's
go
good.
of ego and pride.
Yeah. Don't do it to get those little things and post about it or whatnot. Just do it to be like, cool.
Do your best, and whatever the results are, it's what they are.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to run, because I've done this. I'm going to run an easy run today, zone 2, whatever. And you get on Strava and you see so-and-so just set a 5K PR. And so, like, good job for you.
Yeah.
Today it's zone 2 for me. Don't be afraid to stay true to your own plan.
Yeah. Stick to the plan. I don't want to talk in circles, but yeah, do be deliberate. Stick to it. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's good. It's a tool. It's nice to I've met people, obviously. Yeah. Jacob from there, other buddies that I've met and ran with. And then you can kind of learn what other places are to run also. You're like, hey, where did so-and-so run? You're like, I've never been there. That looks cool. Like, it's very useful. It's nice to get to know people and learn from it and everything. Yeah. But be careful with anything as social media and technology and stuff that it can, don't dwell in it.
Don't get caught up, because then it'll just start taking away from your own victories. You'll see, like I have a friend that High Rocks athlete. The dude is fast, man. We did a 10-mile or 50-mile relay like 2 years ago. His 10-mile leg was like 58 minutes. It's not intelligent for me to get up every morning before I go run, look what he did, and then go run. I'm not going to be happy with what I did.
Right.
And that's a whole nother topic, but it's okay. Like, we're all going to have moments where our motivation is low, which that's I'm not a big motivation guy. I'm a disciplined person, because motivation comes and goes like the weather. But if you wake up one morning, you're like, man, my legs hurt. Like, I really don't want to do this today. Think to yourself, how much work did I put in to get to where I am now? You can see what other people are doing and be like, hey, he still showed up. I can too.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, so much for that zone 2. Time for a 10K trial, with a 5% body battery. Because that person's not going to show up and run your race for you.
Yeah, you do you.
Yeah, just do you, man.
Yeah, that helps so much.
And don't be afraid. Like, I see people like they'll hide their heart rate if it was like Be transparent. We all struggle.
Yeah.
Like, I had a run the other day where it was just hot, and I was running like a 10-something pace at like a tempo heart rate. And I almost hit it, and I was like, no, because someone else out there might be in the same boat I am and then see, well, his was Jack 2 today. It's just the weather.
Right.
It's okay. Yeah. It is okay. You're
going
to have you got to learn to take the bad days.
And that helps you too, because you know when you have a bad day, and still, again, being smart. If you're sick, that's one thing or something else. But if you're not feeling it, to still put the effort in, because you may not feel it on race day. You're like, hey, I've been here before. I can put the work in.
Yeah.
But having this is, and it'll be a good spot to kind of close. Because I try to bring in either what I've been reading in the Bible or some scripture or something. But like having faith is not a kind of a word to say for that. But like believe in yourself, but know that you've put in the time and that you're being smart and all that too. And it kind of, again, goes in a kind of a circle like, well, I don't know if I'm smart or I know myself until I push myself and all that stuff. But like, I've been trying, I'm almost done now, finally, with like the Old Testament. And that is there's a bunch of big words and old names in there and it's hard to read and these numbers and things.
Yeah.
But here, about you hear like, okay, it's the Israelites and about them, but I haven't read the Bible fully through. And so I've at this point now, where I'm reading through the beginning of the Old Testament, I've read the New Testament. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that it's like mind-boggling of the stories of the Israelites, and they're getting out of Egypt, and we're going to the Promised Land, and they're traveling, and these crazy things like happen where they're like, I know that you like let Moses split the sea and we passed through, and that's like incredible, and we've never seen that, but we're hungry and we wish we were still slaves in Egypt. Like,
yeah.
How are y'all saying this right now? And like, so then it'll be like, all right, here's some bread from the sky, and the manna stuff, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then something else will happen, and like, okay, I'm Moses. I'm gonna go up the mountain here, talk to God for a second. Y'all be cool. And before Moses comes back down, they're like worshiping idols again. He's like, dude,
what are y'all doing?
And like, like he's up here, and like just losing that faith in like in a ridiculous way. Sometimes I think it can kind of be put in the way of like, better.
Yeah.
Better. If don't be, again, that's why I don't want to beat a dead horse to say, but just like, I'm sure there were some smart Israelites, of course they all didn't die, but like we're scratching our head watching these guys like, what are they doing? Like, he just like swallowed these guys up with the earth and fire and split the ocean. Like, they don't believe in them still, or they're lacking faith. Like, the process. You've done it. If you are in the middle of it and maybe you are grinding too hard, then like Jacob was saying, like, hey, take a rest day. It'd be good.
Yeah.
It'd be good.
But
like,
when it comes time to get back to work, it's time to get back to work.
Have that faith.
And that's a neat thing about the Bible. You can find many different learning techniques out of it. Read it.
Yeah.
And the next time you are like, hey, I am suffering, you can be like, well, people were suffering thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
I'm not
you're
the
not
first.
the first.
Suffering's nothing new.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with this fitness journey is you are going to suffer. You are going to suck. You are going to hurt. You are going to... You're
not the only one. Right.
Yeah, it's growth. I mean, I'd say 90% of this journey is growth, and without pain, there is no growth. So you have to put in the time.
It's a tough love for yourself.
Yeah.
If you really want to see whatever the amount of growth, whatever the goal is, not to be an Olympian.
Yeah.
But whatever you're trying to do, know that you're worth it, and then do it smartly. Smartly. That's probably not. Do it wisely.
Intelligently.
Yeah, intelligently. That's probably sounds better.
And just know it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
If I just stick, and that's part of faith. I know if I put in the work, if I don't let this, deter me, if I just keep the faith that one day this is going to pay off, you're gonna look back and you're like, man, I've been consistent for a year now.
Yes.
Because faith is something, because it's not like substance. It's something that you really have to like hang on to. And whether it's the gym, high rocks, running, trail running, speed workouts, whatever, you're going to have moments where you're going to start losing faith.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent that because I still hit those moments all the time, where if you start to lose that faith, you're like, okay, I'm in a bad spot right now, but let's see just 10 more minutes. If you just keep okay, let me just make it to here.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden that 10 minutes, 30 minutes goes by and you're like, hey, I'm feeling better. Like I'm good. I just had that weak moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine. But that's where you're going to grow. That's the learning point in all of this, is that I hit that point. I suffered. I didn't give in. I stuck to it. And now I'm that much stronger.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well said. Jacob, man, thank you so much. I'm glad we're finally able to
for sure.
to meet up and get a run in,
Yeah.
and talk. And
We've been trying since June.
find a decent spot that the wind wasn't crazy. I was worried about this sounding bad and everything, but yeah, lots. So much information. So good stuff, buddy.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time and everything.
Of course.
And yeah, we'll get this out. And I hope everyone listening here enjoyed this too. And if you have any questions, email the little email I put in the description, fullsteamaudio@outlook.com, I think is what it is. I think, right? That's bad. I think I might have made it at Gmail. I can't, I don't worry about it.
It's on there.
It's on there. It looked below. So anyway, thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course.